On the business desk this hour, we turn our focus to the illegal trade of cigarettes, causing serious concern around tax evasion. It is a matter that emerged strongly as a concern in the latest revenue collection numbers. We now joined by GM at British American Tobacco South Africa. That's Johnny Moloto. Thank you so much for your time, Johnny. A very concerning issue when we talk about tax evasion as well as the corruption side of the coin when it comes to the illicit trade of cigarettes. How much of a concern has this continued to be, even post the strict lockdown restrictions where we had seen that initial spike?
Thank you very much, Tumisang, for the opportunity. Yes, it continues to be a serious concern of us. And as we indicated in our statement, it's not just only to us as a company, but to our entire legal value chain, because it concerns our farmers, it concerns our processors, as well as all the other people, that benefit from the downstream industries that are supported by the industry. But beyond that, it's something that we are missing out on a lot of revenue opportunities for the state. As you heard the commissioner speak last week Friday, so far they managed to recover about 4.2 billion from illicit activities. That's just a drop in the ocean. And as he correctly points out, we still have a long way to go to, at least for our industry, the 19 billion that we lose a year.
What do we mean by a long way to go? Because the illicit trade of cigarettes in South Africa has been somewhat of a consistent issue. There was a time in previous years where the South African Revenue Service had a dedicated department with regards to dealing with this matter, but we find ourselves with a situation that continues to worsen.
Yes, by a long way to go. I mean, if we look at 2019, where it started to turn the corner, we saw, some improvements from an enforcement point of view. Then come the lockdown where we got banned for 5 months. That gave, the criminal syndicates a huge opportunity to entrench themselves. And added to that, the other levels of crime that also spiked. And the challenge that we are seeing now is that even from a prosecutorial side, we know that the state capacity has been severely weakened, which is why we are not seeing a lot of traction as we would have liked to see to bring these criminals to book. So if we haven't seen anything from other, crimes that have not been prosecuted, such as your state capture, I wonder where we are in that list.
These are billions being lost into tax revenue collection that could be going into the country's fiscus. Is industry telling on each other in this case to assist the prosecutorial process in this regard?
Well, in the studies that we've done, this is the current one is the 5th wave in such studies. What we try to do, we try to achieve 2 objectives with this, is to have an evidence-based approach in order for us to inform the authorities where the hotspot areas are. For example, you have 3 hotspot provinces, which is Gauteng, Free State, and the Western Cape. But you also have consistent offenders, that consistently pop up in all the reports. So, the smoking gun is there. Who are the culprits, because their brands are the ones that consistently pop up in this illicit market. So if you're asking about telling on each other, we don't have to do that. The evidence points straight to the culprits in this.
Having said that, Johnny, there is quite a concern that has been raised, particularly in the public, about these matters being approached and subsequently being, ventilated in a court of law. It is highly unlikely that we get such information, even with the SARS commissioner last week giving his report. It was a minuscule number of illicit traders that were noted on the side of corruption here. What's to be said about the level of enforcement?
Yeah. So far, we are giving the authorities the benefit of the doubt because, from what we are hearing, at least from public pronouncements, is that, systems are being put in place. We've been calling, for a lot of enforcement around border control, production counters in factories, installing cameras to monitor production in real time. But also more importantly than anything, you cannot continue just to focus on the market itself, but it's cutting the problem at source. And by its source, I mean the manufacturers themselves. And I think that is the only way that we'll deal with this problem once and for all, and comprehensively so.
In the near term, is there some optimism, though, that at least some of these challenges are being addressed by legal authorities?
Well, we hope that through these studies that we continue to conduct, to educate the consumer, to raise the awareness to the authorities, and whenever we get a chance, whether be it through public presentations in Parliament, we continue to raise these issues, and we hope that it doesn't fall on deaf ears, because in the recent past, we were starting to get really demoralized in terms of whether there will be an end, to this problem. And we can only hope that through platforms such as this, that this message, falls on the right ears.
Thank you so much for your time. That is GM at BARTS, Johnny Moloto, talking to us about the illicit trade of cigarettes continuing to aggravate the situation when it comes to South Africa's tax collection. That's